even know what this episode gonna be called.
Is this camera on me?
I hope so.
But we talking about everything, and I had to bring the man with the plan, Cam, host
sir.
of the Exzentric Podcast,
Back at
on
it.
the show for.
We've been at it for bro. It's going on. It's going on like 3 years, bro. We've been doing these in really 2020, bro.
Since the pandemic.
Yeah, early pandemic.
We was in here. We was in the living room. A lot of
We've
shit
been
changed.
everywhere, yeah.
New camera, new audio, all that. I hope y'all really like this episode. But we're gonna cover a lot of things. We're gonna talk about election. We're gonna talk about student loans. We're gonna talk about Ukraine and Russia, China, Trump, everything. And we're going to get into what it really means. I think the focus of this episode will be talking about third party and like the importance of the upcoming presidential election and what black people should do as a community, as a people. So you've seen this discourse, you've seen this argument over the years. People say that if you vote third party, you're taken away from Democrats, or you're basically a vote for anybody but the Democratic Party is a vote for Trump, a vote for DeSantis, a vote for... You can plug anybody in that Republican seat. They've used this argument. Primary liberals or leftists, whatever you want to call it, have used this argument for like the last 20 years. If you're not voting Democrat, you're basically voting for ex-Republican.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Is that really a fair accusation or a fair argument to have? What are your general thoughts on the importance of the individual vote? Is it more collectivist? Is it more individualist? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I get the line of thinking in that, you're saying that, if you're not voting for, because, people just don't really have faith in third parties. And, not in recent years, throughout history has shown us that third party candidates don't really do that well. But I think that at this point in time where we are in 2023, it's like people are so out of touch with the duopoly of Republican and Democrat saying like, Democrats are going to do this for me or Republicans are going to do this for me. And, I think that many people would say, like, even people who are Republicans and everything, everyday life doesn't change for the average Republican, no matter who they vote for and stuff. So, like, I think that there's also a lot of Republicans also who are apathetic as well, who are just like, they want something fresh also. We're kind of seeing that with DeSantis but like in a opposite way. We have Dr. Cornel West who's going third party, who wants to, bring in this new ideology or like, this more communal ideology and everything. And you have Ron DeSantis who's going all in on, I'm going to
Trump at this point.
Yeah, I'm going. You thought Trump was bad. You ain't seen me. I'm just his policies that he's enacting. But it's like, I think that because. And like the same thing with Democrats. They've been using the same playbook of like, you have to vote for us if you want things to change.
Vote like your life depends.
Yeah, vote like your life depends on it. But it's like, a lot of Republicans the Republican Party, they're still trying to recover from all the damage that Donald Trump did to the party. Like, they lost all legitimacy with Donald Trump being party. Yeah, as a party. And so it's like, that's why DeSantis is now coming along to try and restore order. But it's like, he's trying to do that through these wild policies that are like draconian and reversing and all of the progress that people made and everything in the past couple of years or that we've made as a society. He wants to turn that back because, to prove a point. And, and what he's using is definitely like tactics of like fascist and authoritarian. And like, this is the U.S. So I'm not going to call it full-on dictatorship or authoritarianism, but it's like it's some of the same principles that these people use. Is like you alienate a certain group of people who in Florida it's people who are people of color, LGBT, like just all of this in Florida. Like he's literally his campaign slogan or one of them is like where woke comes to die, and it's like crazy, which is crazy. Like and mind you, woke to him means anything progressive, like
anything progressive.
Like
anything
if
liberal.
it's not traditional American values or whatever.
It's crazy that you brought up the word woke. Just seeing the transformation of that word from where it started in the black community. Like, I'm not even going to call it a predominantly Hotep thing, but it's like, back in the day when you was woke, it was like a place of elevated consciousness. Like
absolutely.
It was
like, you're on a higher level of thinking.
You're a higher level of thinking. Like, you're not asleep to the way things are.
Exactly.
Not necessarily a full out conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
Side note. conspiracy theorists low key been eating the last
Hey,
few years.
man.
Like when it comes to like look at COVID, find
Yeah,
out
the
that the shit
post-COVID
grew in
world and stuff.
crazy, bro. They was like, first tweet I saw about COVID coming back from Myrtle Beach spring break. Somebody talking about, oh, this shit definitely came from a lab in China.
And what happened? Yeah, they've been eating,
3
bro.
years later.
Yeah, it's been
Vote to
confirmed.
find. Not only did it come from a lab in China,
It was-
allegedly, it was funded by the U.S. as
And
well.
it was
put out by the State
The
Department.
fact that it was created, like, you know what I'm saying?
Created.
Like,
This wasn't a
it's-
natural thing. They talking
exactly.
about all them years of denying and calling them people whack jobs. You know, a broken clock is right twice.
Yeah,
a day.
exactly. They've been onto
The
something,
clock's
bro.
low key been ticking. But back to the main point though. You know, you brought up the whole thing with third party and how low key Democrats be slandering like anybody that even like thinks about voting third party. It brings me back to this thought, and I just had it. Republicans voted third party in 2020. Trump was not a traditional Republican.
Exactly.
Trumpism is the Trump Republican is a brand new political party, essentially.
Straight up, yeah.
Because he's not what Republicans want. He took away from Republican ideology. He took away from the traditional conservative and brought forth new values because he had his own money, his own way.
Yeah.
And that's the new wave that a lot of these mainstream Republicans are starting to ride.
Yep.
They're no longer the Bush Republican. They're no longer the Nixon, Mitt Romney's, I don't even know anymore. The Rush Limbaugh is like,
Yeah.
this is a whole new wave of Republicans. It's almost like they're voting third party. Is it wrong to vote third party? Somebody, I had watched a video that said that, voting for Cornel West, they were accusing Cornel West of being a sellout to the black community.
Mm-hmm.
As a black man, is it wrong of you to vote third party instead of voting for Joe Biden, who is the Democratic nominee, most likely?
I absolutely do not think so. I think that people went out and voted for Joe in 2020, and
I say if you ain't voting for Joe Biden,
you ain't black. Yeah, and it's like that was the line of thinking back then and everything, and couple years later, couple years removed from I ain't black if I don't vote for Joe Biden, and
we voted for him, and now
what have we what do we really have to show for it?
Will a third party candidate ever be seen as legit in the mainstream political system? Are the everyday Americans really considering voting third party? Are they that turned off from Democrat and Republicans that they would throw their vote at a third party candidate?
I think that within the next 5 to 10 years, let me not say president. I don't think a president is gonna happen yet, but I do think that somebody who's running in Congress or for local government or something, you're gonna start to get more people who are coming from outside of the Democrat and Republican Party system. And like you said, there's already people who are within the political system that don't really even if they are under the Republican umbrella or the Democrat umbrella, they're not really, like you said, they're not traditional Democrats or traditional Republicans. And so it's and like I said, kind of going back to what I was talking about, so as you have these people who are, let's call them just sleeper agents for now, they're in the Democratic Party, but if they had the chance to, a third party candidate came along and, a third party was legitimized, they would probably switch their loyalties to said a Democratic third party or a Republican third party per se. But, it's just they don't have that to put it into themselves right now. And I think that's kind of the plan, for right now, especially with people like Cornel West running, is that that gives it legitimacy as well, is that you have somebody who is prominent, who is known, that they're running third party. And I think that especially with Gen Z, we talked about it before, he's a thought leader, and his knowledge is going to be passed down to future generations of Gen Z. We have Gen Z in Congress.
Cats in was it Mississippi?
Tennessee,
yeah. Those two guys,
Justin and Justin.
Justin Jefferson and something Jordan, I think, right?
Yeah, I think the other one was Justin too. I think
both for Justin.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It's those, I like them.
Exactly.
They're powerful figures. They're very well spoken. I'm not saying well spoken. I know what you're saying. They command attention. You know what I'm saying?
They got gravitas.
They got gravity, and it's it came from a polarizing situation where it's they were made into those figures, their faces now, almost, that you can attach to leftists or the woke movement.
Yeah,
it's I think we might have some traction when it comes to politicians aging out or dying
Yeah,
eventually.
absolutely. And going off of that, like, yeah, I do think another reason why I do think that third party can win in the future is that yes, you are starting to have older people phase out of politics. Like, at a certain point, they're gonna have to kick the bucket or they're gonna have to retire. You know, Mitch
What's her
McConnell,
old ass
them
in
people.
California? She gotta go.
Yeah,
Feinstein.
yeah. Mitch McConnell, Feinstein, some dude in Iowa, or whatever. Like, bro,
Bro, they like 90 something.
yeah, like they're in, like, and the average politician, I think, is the age was crazy. It was like it was
60,
definitely
like 60
above.
and up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was definitely like over 65, and it's like, and that's kind of another reason why, even voting for Joe Biden still to me, it's like, bro, if you had an 84-year-old bus driver, you would be like, yo, what's going on? And we're supposed to vote for an 84-year-old.
Well, Cornel
man
West
to be-
ain't that too far off though. He what, 76?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The Cornel West is old,
it's some
but
old
that's
people
that's also why I don't think that he's gonna win either, because people use that against
use
him
the
too,
same
and the
argument.
fact that he's coming as a third party, and that's why I don't think he would win now, but I think that he's gonna set a precedent in the future.
The one thing that I respect about Republicans is that, no matter who is sitting or like no matter who their Republican nominee is, people are still running. Like they allow people to participate in the presidential election cycle. The thing that really pisses me off with Democrats is that, Joe Biden is the best that Democrats have. If that's the best that we have, we are in trouble.
Exactly.
Like an 84-year-old man, that's representative of Democratic like ideology. That's representative, like that's the best we got.
Yeah.
Like I know, like typically you back the incumbent president. Okay, that's cool. But it's like y'all scared to go run. Y'all don't think y'all could beat him.
And
Kamala, you don't think that you can? You
and
can do his
that's
job
my
better?
thing too. Is like, why? Like, I definitely know that there's not a consensus amongst Democrats that Joe Biden is like it's probably a consensus that he may be the best person, but it's like, why does nobody think that y'all have anybody better?
I think it's
in this
just up to
election
the
cycle?
donors. Like they just know that the winning bet is the incumbent president. He's the only one that can beat Trump. He's the only one that can beat DeSantis. Nobody else has the backing of the donors. Nobody else has the political support. Nobody else is known well enough. But my thing is, why can't the donors push somebody new? Like
Somebody younger.
Like, not to say that Obama came out of nowhere, but it's like, when I was a kid, I ain't never heard of Obama until that presidential election.
Oh God.
And most people don't. It's like, when will we get a new face? Like, we got AOC in Congress and stuff like that. We got the Jeff. He's a North Carolina Democrat. Senator.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Him too. Hakeem Jeffries. It's like we got some names and faces that are really like well known and established within Congress and stuff like that. They're good legislators and stuff like that. But it's like, why can't we, say, all right, Joe, you're a little bit too old. We're gonna try somebody else new.
Yeah.
And like just get all the Democrats to rally behind them. Like pick one. Let
Pick
them
somebody.
actually participate in a Democratic whatever you want to call that, primary election.
Yeah.
Like, why can't we do that? Why are y'all so hell bent on just letting Joe Biden run again? Because what if you lose?
Yeah.
Final thoughts on that. Going into this next presidential election, I think it's important to realize that, as much as your ancestors or our ancestors fought for the right to vote, equally, I think that people should also consider, Black people specifically, should also consider the vote or abstaining the right to vote as a form of protest.
Absolutely.
Part of the political process is, you vote for politicians that get the job done.
Yeah.
If you run on certain promises, you need to execute.
Yeah.
If you're not executing, you're supposed to go to the next person. That is how democracy is supposed to function.
That's how the world works.
That's how the
bro.
world
If you don't
should
deliver,
work,
if you don't
ideally.
deliver on, you will get fired and you will not be brought
Exactly.
back,
That is how the world works. How dumb does it sound to keep voting for a party that generally is not getting the things that you are voting for executed?
Yeah.
Now, the alternative is, and this is what people need to be cognizant of and very careful of when thinking about voting Republican. A lot of Republican policies are not in the best interest of Black people as it stands currently. A lot of the politicians are very polarizing and actually very, very, very far to the right. Yes, they might be good for your pockets, but if you are not the traditional American, like if you fall into one of those protected classes, like, if you're disabled, if you're a part of the queer community, if you are native of any type. You
Mm-hmm.
know, most of these policies might actually harm people that look like you or fit into one of those categories. So if you're thinking about voting for Republican, you need to consider that. However, last thing I want to say is that, you know, the most selfish thing you can do in this country is vote.
Yep.
And I don't think it is wrong necessarily to exercise and participate in that democratic process as an individual. Yes, it's cool to consider the communities that you're a part of, but at the end of the day, it's your vote. You're voting for who you think should be in office.
Yep.
And I think it's low-key borderline anti-black to tell black people that you always have to vote Democrat. And this is low-key, I'm not going to quote Kanye West or anything like that, but it's like, you know, when we put black people in a box and we expect them to behave or expect us to behave in a certain fashion, like, and never being able to deviate, we're not free
Nah.
in that sense. So that's really all I got to say on that. If you want to vote, vote Democrat. If you want to vote Republican, vote Republican. If you want to vote third party, there's nothing wrong with voting third party. I'm highly considering it, but I'll probably vote Democrat. What about you?
I'm the same way, bro. Like, I'm voting for, you know, just kind of what I believe in. And I really like what you said about not voting as a form of protest. And I think that, yes, that's a very valid form of protest. Like, you know, like, and yes, don't want to disrespect ancestors who fought for people that have the right to vote. But, you know, they were fighting for the right to vote for people that's going to look out for their best interests. If somebody feels like they're not, if they don't have our best interests at heart, then people are not going to vote for them. And like you said, I mean, voting for third party can also be another form of protest. It's like, okay, like I'm voting, I'm exercising my right to vote, but I'm not voting for who you think I'm going to vote for.
At least you're participating.
Yeah, because they don't have my best interests at heart, so I'm going to vote for somebody who I feel more aligns with what I believe in. So like you said, I'm probably, like, you know, traditionally I would vote Democrat, but, you know, I think that it is a point where it's like, yeah, I kind of do want to evaluate and, you know, just kind of see what the future holds. What if Joe Biden's gonna stay the candidate? If more third party people come around, like, you know, I'm excited to see, like, you know, because I do have more knowledge than I did last election, and, you know, we have the knowledge of what happened or what's been happening in the past couple of years with Joe Biden, and, you know, there's been some highs and there's definitely been some lows, but more than anything, I think it's just been a lot of stagnation. If anything, like, you know, things haven't gotten too bad. It wasn't as bad as under Trump, but things haven't gotten progressively better, which is what we were led to believe when we were using that vote on Joe Biden.